for a university. I've done all sorts of different things. Nothing related to trains, sadly, not yet, but maybe one day. So that's me. But yes, so I'm P.G.Wells. Thank you all very much indeed for coming to see me this evening. It's my last event of the tour, so I'm very, very happy to be here. If you're wondering what the P stands for, it's Peter, sometimes Patrick, but mostly Peter. And the G stands for Gwilym, which is the Welsh form of William. And yes, I am the author of the Trains from Possible Places. I'm lucky enough to be writing stories for a job. The thing to realise is that you all have a favourite bedtime story, whether you're actually reading it at bedtime or whether you're reading it for yourself. These first stories that you're enjoying, if you're reading them for yourself for the first time, or maybe you're doing them at school, or your parents are reading them to you in bed, they're quite often the very first stories that you ever hear, and that makes them the most important stories. Stay with you longer than any other, and they can shape the way that you think about storytelling and about the world around you and about yourself. And I can prove that to you by telling you a little bit about my favourite bedtime story. In fact, it was the very first story I can remember ever hearing. My mum told it to me at bedtime when I was about 3 years old, and it was The Magic Faraway Tree. That's got a good reaction. I assume a lot of you have read that one, yes? Hands up if you read it. The reason that I remember this one so well is because when I was 3 years old, it's the first book that made me realise that stories can take you absolutely anywhere and that anything can be possible. And the thing I loved best about it was the three children in the stories climbing up the magic faraway tree.
Joe and Franny.
That's it. And passing through the clouds at the top of the tree. That was my favourite bit. The Trains to Impossible Places. Oh, you have? Oh, fantastic. Lovely. Okay, for those of you who haven't, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction. It is a story about this girl.
Susie Smith.
Susie Smith, exactly. Now, who can tell me some things about Susie Smith?
Yes,
What's
she loves physics.
She loves physics, that's right.
Actually, she loves maths, but physics is into maths only, so she's very good in physics.
That's it, exactly. Physics makes the maths useful.
Where is she?
Where is she? That's her on the front there, yeah.
There.
Now, Susie is 11 years old. She's very smart. She's very sensible. She's a little bit stubborn. Yes, the most important thing about Susie is that she loves physics. And can you tell me why she loves physics so much?
Should I tell it again?
Sorry?
I already told it.
Oh, right, yes. Oh, it's because it makes maths useful. That's very true. But mostly it's because Susie likes the world to make sense. She likes things to be very sensible and orderly. And physics helps her to understand the world around her and make sense of it. And of course she's doing very well. Her life is very sensible and very orderly and a little bit boring until in the middle of the night she's woken by a strange noise and clanging, banging metal sound.
And then when she comes down, she sees dad and mom snoring.
That's right, she sees her parents fast asleep in the living room, but she meets someone in her hallway.
A troll.
A troll, that's it, exactly. Now, if I say the word troll, what sort of a creature do you tend to think of?
A gargoyle? A weird creature with weird hair and a weird everything. A gargoyle?
A gargoyle type creature and a weird creature with weird hair and weird everything, yes.
The first thought is a ginormous ugly looking thing with a big mole.
But my trolls are quite friendly, they're quite clever. The thing that really makes my trolls different, though, is that they are engineers. They love to build machines.
My dad is he's into machines.
Ah, right, my dad's an engineer as well, actually. And my trolls are engineers. They love building magical machines. Any kind of weird and wonderful magical machines.
In magical medicine, there were machines that make different medicines.
That's it. Well, yeah, you're going to find all sorts of weird and wonderful magical machines in that book that the trolls have built. And when Susie comes downstairs and meets a troll in her hallway, the troll she meets is called Fletch. He's an engineer and he is building something right through the middle of her house. A railway.
A magic train.
You're way ahead of me. Yeah, well done. Yeah, Fletch is building a railway for a magical train. The train to impossible places.
He enlarges the hall, but the house is the same size.
That's right. He makes the house bigger. Smashing in through the front door, and it almost squashes her flat.
And she's almost an incident.
Almost an incident, yes. The last thing Susie saw before she hit the ground was a train erupting in a whirling mass of wheels, rods and pistons from the tunnel mouth.
What is pistons? Pistons are like slaps.
A piston is a...
Like, is it?
That's it, exactly. Yeah, it's a thing that moves in and out. It's part of a machine.
Oh yeah, which makes it work. Yeah, I know.
That's it, yeah. Then she screwed her eyes shut, and for a second, the world was dark and full of noise. Hot steam gusted over her face. Metal screeched and clashed. A whistle howled. She gritted her teeth and clapped her hands over her ears. The scream of brakes reached crescendo and suddenly died away.
Ooh.
There was a last outrush of steam, like a sigh of relief, and everything went quiet. Susie risked opening one eye. She had fallen at the foot of Fletcher's tent, her feet just centimetres from the track. Rough hands grasped her shoulders, and she looked up to see Fletch standing over her, pulling her into a sitting position. She was too shocked to resist. "What were you thinking?" he said, hopping from foot to foot in agitation. "You almost became an incident."
Agitation means?
If you're agitated, it means you're quite angry and quite frustrated. "Oh, what?" said Susie, her ears still ringing. "An incident on the line. The worst type of incident it's possible to be." Susie looked at him blankly and wondered what to say. His tone made her want to apologise, but she wasn't sure he deserved it. In fact, didn't he still owe her an apology? She was just gathering her thoughts to say so, when a new voice called out from somewhere high above them. "Fletch, is that you, old chap? What the dickens is going on down there?"
What, like, what is that?
Yeah, what on earth is going on?
Scenario?
I'm not sure. What the dickens doesn't mean anything by itself, really. It means what on earth is happening?
It's like,
What the devil is happening? They both looked up towards the source of the voice, and Susie almost fell backwards in surprise. A mighty old steam locomotive towered over her, hissing and shuddering, and belching yellowish steam from its chimney. It was bigger than any locomotive Susie had seen before. At least, bits of it were. To her eyes, it looked like a large train had smashed into several smaller ones, and maybe a few buildings along the way, and the parts had all got mixed up and stuck together. Its chimney was too wide, none of the drive wheels quite matched, and the cylindrical belly of its boiler was too fat at the front and too narrow at the back. The driver's cab was nothing less than a neat little red brick cottage, complete with tiled roof, window boxes, and a bright red front door, which stood open on the near side of the boiler. It was from here that the voice had come, and, as Susie watched, a small figure scampered out of the cottage and onto a narrow gangway that ran along the length of the locomotive's flank, a metre or so above the wheels. The figure carried a lantern and shone the light directly down on Fletch like a spotlight. "Fletch, we didn't just have an incident, did we?" Susie tried to make out the figure's face, but it was just a black patch of shadow behind the glare of the lantern. "It's worse than that, Stonker," said Fletch. "Look!" He hooked a thumb in Susie's direction, and the light swung over to cover her. "Good grief! A local! And it's awake!" So that is Susie's first encounter with the train to impossible places.
So you've been a reader, and so how much, would you attribute the fact that you are now an author to the fact that you were also a very good reader?
Oh, I would not be an author if I wasn't a reader first. Every single book that I've enjoyed has made me want to tell my own stories. And even the bad books, the ones that I haven't enjoyed, have made me think, well, I can do better than this. I need to do better than this. So yes, I'm very lucky that I had very encouraging parents who gave me lots of books and took me to the library. I had a library at the bottom of my street, and a wonderful librarian called Miss Joyce, who I thank in the acknowledgement.
In Matilda, the parents that watch TV buy a
That's
stupid
it.
book.
Exactly, but just like Matilda had her friendly librarian who encouraged her to read, I had a librarian who every week when I walked in, she had some books lined up ready for me going, "I think I found something that you'll like." and she never questioned any of my choices. I could pick whatever I wanted, and she would always encourage me to try and read new things.
So I just like to know if you think science and imagination are connected, and how's it?
Absolutely, because as you were telling me earlier on, I think science is all about curiosity, and you can't have curiosity without imagination, because you've got to be able to picture the world beyond your own experience and try and imagine how things might be.
My grandmother used to be a professor of science.
So, thank you very, very much, Peter. I think we all really enjoyed your talk immensely. And those who haven't read the book, I'm sure they're just going to run back home and start reading right away. We can get the kids lined up.
Can we have a huge round of applause?
Yeah, please.